As I went through my power bills from last year, I found that on average I had used 511 kilowatt hours every month on power, and with the North American average cost of 15 cents per kilowatt hours and additional fees that apparently make sense to someone somewhere, my power bill is one of my biggest monthly costs. So I went around my home and I started to look at ways that I can make back some of that money with smart gadgets, because not only do I want to be power efficient, but every time I save money, I'm saving myself from having to work an extra hour and therefore saving time in my life. There's nothing like a good set of smart bulbs in your home to really change the look and feel, and that's great, and really it's the reason that they've become so popular, but these also give us an opportunity that many standard LED bulbs don't give us today. When you purchase a standard 8-watt LED light bulb and you put it in your home, it will use that entire 8 watts whenever it's on. So one of the easiest things I have done is to use my smart bulbs at a lower brightness. In fact, I've done it so much, and I've used some power measurement tools to test out both the change in lumens and the change in power when you start to reduce that brightness percentage. Here is a typical graph for a smart bulb, and I will tell you that by the time you hit 70% brightness, you will be using about 50 to 55% of the overall power. That would mean an 8-watt smart bulb was using around 4 to 4.4 watts. At that 70% brightness, you will find about 50 to 55% of the lumens are still there, but as you head lower in percentage of brightness, the lumens will drop off more and more. You can see that at about 50% brightness, we are somewhere between 20 and 30% of the lumens, and your power is actually reduced to about 30 to 35%. As an example of what you can save using the average price of power per kilowatt while using a smart bulb at 50% brightness for half the day, you would make about $4.27 back on your smart bulb investment every year. With pricing for many smart bulbs now being under $10, it's a year or at maximum 2 before you've made your money back on buying that smart version, and by year 3, you're actually making money on that bulb. Just don't go spending $50. If we say that smart bulbs are fun to look at, then I think LED strips and other smart lamps and fixtures are extra fun to look at, but they give us the same opportunities as those smart bulbs, and I think many of you will have gone out and spent the money on these already without realizing quite how expensive they are. When I measured many of the smart LED strips available on the market today, I found that they would use between 20 and 30 watts of power, and when we're talking about that 8 watts on a light bulb typically, then we are talking about a lot of power, like He-Man levels of power. Of course, you can use that same trick for reducing in brightness as we used with the smart bulbs, and you'll experience similar savings, but there's something even more effective that you can do here. If you used one of these light strips for 1/3 of your day and you put them on full brightness and on a white color, you'd spend about $11 per year on power. If you use this trick I'm about to give you, you'll spend only $2.19, which is almost exactly 1/5 of the cost. In my testing, most of the white looking colors like white itself or yellow, pink, and most of the time orange resulted in most of the power still being used by the LED strip. This is due to how these are designed. Now, what I have found is that when you use a single color like red or blue or green, or in some cases purple or teal, you will end up using much less power, and then again, the reduction in brightness gives you those other power savings. Here's a great example of this with the Govee Lyra, where you can see that most of the basic colors that we want in our homes are resulting in less than half of the power usage. And when I show you just how far the power usage falls when we go to, say, a fully green light strip at 50% brightness, then you should see that we're using less than 1/5 of the overall power, and it's actually much more like you're using one of those smart bulbs at that point. Pretty much everyone has a smart speaker in their home today, and if you don't, you have a regular speaker for music, and if you don't have that, what do you even listen to? are you even a person? Anyways, there are a few ways that you can use a smart speaker to actually start to reduce power usage when you're playing music. I have a couple of speaker lineup guides for both Amazon and Google that I've linked down below, and that will tell you more of the details with smart speakers and their power usage. But what I will tell you is that in many cases, the smart speakers themselves are really a directional audio device. What I mean by this is best shown in an example. Here is the Echo Show 8, and it fires sound out of both sides. So if you measure at full volume on the side of this speaker, you'll get almost 117 decibels, whereas if you measure from the front, you'll get about 96 decibels. This profile is very different from the Echo Show 5 here, which fires out all of its sound out of its single speaker at the bottom of the device. When you realize where the sound is coming from, then you can actually use reflective surfaces around your home to better fire sound out into your space and therefore reduce the volume on those speakers. That's a bigger deal than you might think because these get costly when playing music at higher volume. If you were to play the Echo Studio at 70% for just 2 hours a day, it would cost you about $1.10 in extra power costs over and above the speaker just sitting there. But if you move that volume to 100%, the same speaker would cost you $3.19 a year. This is very typical of larger speakers in the smart speaker space, as lots of them have their power usage really start to take off at about 70% volume. But we can save even more money with these because the speakers draw power all the time, and the smart displays are especially power hungry with their screens. So let me share with you a really easy way and a very typical result for turning off a few features and saving a lot of power. The Echo Show 10 draws about 8 watts of power while it is sitting idle. However, if you mute the microphone, you drop a full watt off of that. Then, if you turn off the camera, you will drop a further 2 watts. There's also a setting in every Echo Show that allows you to turn off the screen after 10 minutes of it sitting idle. And if you do that, plus you turn off the microphone and camera, you will end up at 3.6 watts. That is a reduction of over half of the power use while the device is sitting idle, and it can cost you, using those averages for power, about $9 a year just sitting there without doing that. I'm embarrassed to admit that this happened to me, but I have to tell the story because it's a really clear example of what's happening to all of us. We all know that entertainment systems can have a lot of phantom power draw. That's the power draw when the things like televisions or DVRs are sitting powered off. And this isn't something new, and I think in many cases that power draw is something we don't expect in brand new televisions because this has been known for so long. But I had a couple of smart plugs with energy monitoring capabilities, and I was using those to measure some of those entertainment devices in my home. And this one from Fabaro is really good because it visually shows you in the color ring around the edges how much power you're drawing at any one time, and then you can verify your results if it's connected to a platform like Samsung SmartThings. This one from AOTech is really good, but I was initially unsure about how it was working due to some of the results I got when it was plugged into my relatively new Roku or TCL television. Of course, that one has the Roku interface and it's controllable through Google Home or Amazon's voice assistant. But I had turned on all of the power savings features when I first got the TV, and so when I started to measure 21.8 watts being used even when the television was off, I was pretty surprised. The embarrassing thing was that this was after about 2 years of ownership and thinking that everything had been done right. So just to confirm my readings, I went out and I bought a real power meter that could measure kilowatts. It confirmed my results, and so I went back into the settings on my TV to find this odd little setting that basically said if you leave this checked, then you will ignore all of your power savings features and this TV will continue to be a power hungry beast. Once I turned that off, the idle power usage was just 0.3 watts. Just to give you an idea of the cost of that over the last 2.5 years that I've had this thing, it would have cost me about $28.20 25 cents just to have the thing sitting there connected to the wall. So yes, I cost myself all of that money, but once I changed this setting, my voice control stopped working through Google and Amazon. So one of the best things you can do for these kinds of systems to save money is to purchase a smart IR controller and a smart power bar. The smart power bar will give you the ability to turn on and off all of the different components, and the smart IR controller will allow you to turn on things like televisions as if you had the remote in your hand. So what you can do at that point is to turn on the power, wait a few seconds with a routine from Amazon or Google, and then use your IR controller to turn on the devices you would like, all in a single sequence or a single routine. As I was going around and using that power meter and my smart plugs with energy monitoring to test out electronics throughout my home, I wasn't finding a ton of things that were costing me a lot of money. My speaker system attached to my computer was actually a big draw, and I found a NAS storage bay that was costing me quite a bit too, and so I turned those off now in order to stop that power loss. But as I was looking for more power savings, I went to this website called saveonenergy.com and found an energy consumption calculator. It's not a perfect tool, but what it did show me was that the biggest power savings would come from my big appliances and especially my home's HVAC system. So the biggest and easiest way for you to save money is to lower that HVAC system's temperature in winter and increase it in the summer. The good news is that both Nest thermostats and ecobee thermostats give you two really great ways to save additional money with their units. The first and easiest one is to use their eco modes, which help choose when and how to heat. From Google's estimates last year with their new thermostat, these kinds of modes will save you about 12% versus not using them. The second setting is related to your family's presence in your home, and those basically allow your system to go idle when it's not needed and when you're not home, and to prepare your home's temperature only for when you would need it and are returning. Now, another way to save money is to purchase products that are just as good as their more expensive counterparts, and that's why I produced the video that's up on screen. That is the top 5 smart gadgets under $20. These products are all great, and most of them will save you money in the ways we talked about today. Plus, they're obviously really inexpensive. Go check that out. Otherwise, thanks for watching today, and of course, don't hate, automate.